In recent years, as Sydney's population has increased drastically with a population of 4.8 million in the metro area, it is evident that climate change is happening. The climate of Sydney is already suffering from periods of unpredictable weather changes. The reason we are experiencing these changes ultimately comes down to this. Sydney is an urban heat island, and as a country produces one of the highest amounts of carbon emissions in the world, releasing 5.5 million tonnes per year. These emissions we release are nearly twice the average administered by the OECD, and thus contributes to global warming. When we break it down, the consumption of energy through the built environment contributes to 87% of Australia's total greenhouse gas emissions. The fact that almost all our emissions are produced through energy use is unacceptable. If no action is taken, Sydney will experience extremely high temperatures and be prone to severe weather such as harsh storms, floods, droughts, and bushfires. The rise in temperature would lead to an increase of the consumption of energy as more people would be using cooling utilities such as air conditioning on a more regular basis, thus increasing the emissions of greenhouse gases, adding to global warming. This will cost the government and the residents of the city more money, negatively impacting the country's economy. The increase in heat would also lead to health problems such as heat stroke and heat exhaustion. If Sydney is unable to implement effective strategies in order to mitigate these numbers and cool down the city, greenhouse gases will continue to be released, heating up the city and having a detrimental effect on not just Sydney but ultimately the world. So what strategies can we implement to reduce the carbon emissions released through the built environment in order to adapt and cool Sydney and create a more resilient city? In order to come up with the strategies we could implement, it would be beneficial to look at other cities for inspiration. The city of Buenos Aires is a city that is similar in climate to Sydney. Metropolitan Buenos Aires has a population of 15.2 million people. When looking at the amount of carbon emissions we release, Buenos Aires releases 9.2 million tonnes of emissions per year, whereas Sydney releases approximately half of that. However, when comparing the cities to population versus emissions released, it is evident that Sydney releases more greenhouse gases. Even as such a large city, the emissions produced through the building sector are at 57%, which is significantly lower than the 87% produced by Sydney. So what strategies is Buenos Aires executing to reduce their carbon emissions? Their proposed target is to reduce their carbon emissions by 32.7% by 2030. As a way to achieve this target, Buenos Aires launched its Climate Action Plan in December 2009, which contains a range of adaptation and mitigation strategies for all sectors. In relation to the built environment sector, there are various strategies being imposed by the government in order to reduce carbon emissions and achieve the proposed target. The Buenos Aires Green Plan is an adaptation strategy that was implemented in 2014 in an effort to efficiently use energy and make use of green spaces. The plan sought the construction of numerous buildings and park areas with a modification to public buildings to include grass, terraces, roofs, and walls. Green surfaces have many documented benefits, including decreasing greenhouse gas emissions and noise pollution. They help in the regulating of thermal heat and decrease the amount of heat trapped in the atmosphere. Through the effective implementation of this plan, by 2034, Buenos Aires is expected to reduce its temperatures by up to 6 degrees. Buenos Aires believes that it is extremely important to educate students on these current issues, as they are our future generations who will be experiencing an enhanced version of the effects of climate change if we do not remedy our ways. In 2010, the Ministry of Education implemented the Green Schools Plan in schools. The initiative of Green Schools seeks to educate teachers and students in the conservation of environments and building a sustainable future through the provision of workshops, seminars, and courses to encourage the plan. The government coined the Energy Savings Efficiency Act in 2009 in order to reduce the energy produced by the lighting in public buildings, traffic lights, contracts, and procurements. The city has already replaced 91,000 street lights and traffic lights with energy-efficient LED lights. The government hopes that in the space of 10 years it is able to achieve enough energy savings of nearly up to 70 gigawatts per year, which can then be utilised to power all of the city's public buildings and schools. The government has also sought to implement the energy efficiency program for public buildings. This strategy includes the administration of audits of public buildings throughout the city to record and manage the use of energy in them, and also provide alternative solutions that are proven to be more reliable and energy efficient. The implementation of these strategies have proven to be very effective, as the C40 website commended Buenos Aires as being one of the top 10 cities to achieve its targets set for 2015. This is concrete proof that Sydney as a city should use Buenos Aires as a prime example in the application of strategies. While not all policies Buenos Aires has implemented are directly transferable to Sydney due to the difference in population and area size, there are ways in which we are able to mould strategies to benefit us as a city. Strategies such as the incorporation of green services and the implementation of green subjects at schools would prove to be highly beneficial for the city and easily transferable due to the size and population of our city compared to that of Buenos Aires, and help create a more sustainable environment for the